Hey guys, Ian here from Northern Skatesman Inline. Thanks for checking out my video. Today I'm going to be giving you my review of the 2021 Powerslide HC Evo Pro. I'm going to be giving you a full breakdown of the skate from the bottom up. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, sizing, pricing, whether or not I think this skate is a good deal, and everything else that you need to know before you buy it. Let's get pricing out of the way right off the bat. So right now you can purchase this skate for $680 US or $844 Canadian at Pro Skaters Place or Inline Warehouse. In my opinion, that is a lot of money for some skates, but hey, I bought them. And if you're like me, when I bought these skates, you want a high-end piece of equipment, you just want to make sure that your money's going to the right product. So I'm going to try to give you all the information that you need to know to feel more confident in your decision, whether you buy the skates or not. First thing I'm going to do is break down each individual component of the skate, and I'm going to give you pricing on each component so you can decide if it makes more sense to buy the skate complete or customize it however you want with whatever frames and wheels you want. Then I'm going to get into the sizing part of the video. I'm going to give you a couple of tips that I think are really important that you'll need to know about this skate specifically and just sizing a pair of skates in general. I'm going to be giving you my impressions of the stock skate. So that is to say the wheels that come with it, the frames that come with it, the bearings, etc. And I'm gonna let you know what I think of it personally, but before we get into all that, just please keep in mind that my style of skating isn't freestyle skating. That is to say, I'm not a slalom skater, at least not a very good one yet. I bought these skates because I wanted the option of trying slalom with a high-end skate, but mainly I'm a city skater and I just like to cruise the city, and that's what I use these for. So if you are an advanced slalom skater, I'm not going to be able to give you advice one way or the other on how these will translate into your discipline, but I can give you everything else that you need to know about the skate, its components, and how it works as an urban street skate. Either way though, definitely stick around because by the end of this video, you will know more about this skate than you did before you watched it, and hopefully you'll know whether or not there's enough value in spending the money on this product as opposed to some of the other high-end skates that are out there. On that note, let's start with the wheels. The wheels that come on the 2021 Powerslide HC Evos are the 90mm Powerslide Spinner Free Skate wheels. These are from Powerslide's Urban Collection. These wheels have a durometer reading of 88A with a race performance polyurethane compound. They have a 5-spoke glass fiber composite core and a speed profile radius for less rolling resistance. So between the larger wheel size, the harder durometer rating relative to some of the other urban skates that are out there, and the more narrow or pointed profile, the idea is that you'll get more speed with these wheels without compromising your agility due to the short 225mm wheelbase, which we'll talk more about soon. And I would say that all of those things are more or less true. We'll get into the pros and cons later on in the video, but overall, I was happy with these wheels. The spinners are marketed by Powerslide as an optimal ratio between affordability and quality, and I would also agree with that statement as well. You can pick these wheels up for $11 per wheel at Inline Warehouse, so that would be $66 of course US for a set of 6 for these skates, and that's the equivalent on their site to $78 Canadian. Okay, so bearings are next. We've got the Wicked ABEC 9 free spin bearings. As you might know, an ABEC rating of 9 is very high, but it's also somewhat irrelevant when you're rotating at speeds your wheels are going to be rotating at while you're inline skating. So don't pay too much attention to that number. With that said, I've used these bearings not only on the 90mm spinners that come with the skates, but also on 80mm rollerblade hydrogen wheels, which are quite a bit softer, and I have no complaints so far about the speed or durability. They are a 7-ball chrome steel bearing with a rubber 2RZ shield, meaning they're only shielded on one side, which is the most common design for inline skate bearings. And that's a good thing if you like to clean your bearings from time to time like I do. However, the double shielded bearings, of course, are going to keep your bearings cleaner. Now, this may be silly, but I actually kind of really like the way that they look, actually. You can see a bit of the bearing when you look at the front wheel, and it's got that nice red rubber shield, which kind of adds to the overall black-red aesthetic of the skate. It's a minor thing, but I kind of like that kind of stuff, and I think it's pretty cool. So the Wicked Free Spins also have, of course, a reinforced nylon retainer, and they're priced at $44 US for a set of 16, $56 Canadian. I couldn't find a set of 12, which of course is what you would need for a 3-wheel skate. However, we'll go with the 16 and you'll have a couple extra sets of bearings just in case one of yours breaks. These bearings are definitely decent enough to put in these skates. There are higher end bearings out there, and yes, this is, I think, Powerslide's flagship skate, so maybe you'd expect a little bit higher quality bearing, but I think these are the least important thing to me in terms of what I look for when I'm buying another pair of skates, because even if I want to replace them, they aren't that expensive to replace if I want to go with a different set. But what I'm going to do with these ones is keep using them, and I'm going to keep cleaning them until they're completely worn out and just see how long they last. So far, so good. I'd recommend for you guys at least use them until you're through your first set of wheels. So the axles are going to be, of course, your standard 8mm axle. There's one fixed position axle up front, a rockerable axle in the middle, and a rockerable axle in the heel position. Like the frame mounting bolts, they do require a Torx T25 bit to adjust, which comes with the skates, and that's also going to be included on virtually all aftermarket skate tools as well. Rockering these skates is super easy, and it can be done in about 2 minutes by simply rotating the center wheel axle 180 degrees. And there's also 2 different ways to rocker them. So if you want a more subtle or less aggressive rocker, just simply rotate the rear axle 180 degrees as well. I love these axles. They allow me to change my rocker without any hassles in any situation. And like I said, I'm not a freestyle skater. However, if I want to switch up, practice some slalom, and then go for that flat setup again to hit the city, I can do so really quickly, and it's just very easy to do. The frames on these skates are awesome. They're the 225mm Nexus rocker frames. You'll get the 225mm frame with skate sizes 42 to 44. These are a 42, and a shorter or longer version depending on your foot size. They're an extruded aircraft aluminum frame with Powerslide's signature 3-point mount system and offer longitudinal adjustability along the base of the boot. The Trinity mount is amazing. It really does keep your boot as low to the ground as possible and makes skating with these larger wheels a lot more stable due to the lower center of gravity compared to other tri-skates. I have to say, one of the main reasons that I actually chose the Powerslide HC Evos as opposed to a different brand of skate is because I was so interested in the Trinity mount innovation. And they also have a ton of different frames and frame setups. For example, they have ice skating frames, they have off-road frames, they have 3-wheel, 4-wheel, you name it, they've got it. So there's a ton of different options for modularity with your frames and customizability with these skates. So I love these Nexus frames. I was very happy with them. I came from a 4x80 setup with a 243mm frame, and I was worried that the 225mm frame wasn't going to be as stable as I wanted it to be, but I was actually wrong. They were great. They're really good in terms of stability. Yes, they aren't going to be, of course, as stable as, let's say, this skate with a 243mm 4x80, which I also have for these as well, by the way. I've got Powerslide's Ego frames, which are just a flat 4x80 243, and I've got rollerblade hydrogen wheels on those, and I love that setup as well. However, of course, there's always a trade-off. You're not going to get quite as much speed, and you're not going to get quite as much agility with that 4x80, especially with the softer hydrogen wheel. 85A is what a lot of people go with on their skates. I like the 88A, I like the speed of the 90mm wheels, and I love the agility. So although I like them both for different reasons, if I had to choose one setup to skate for the rest of my life, I'd probably go with the stock setup on these skates. So you can pick these Nexus frames up for $140 US or $174 Canadian, and that's going to come with all the hardware, the spacers, and the tool that you need to install them on your skates. The boot for the 2021 Powerslide HC Evo has been completely redesigned. This is the new boot, and as much as I love the old skate, I really love the look of the new one. It's black, it's red, it looks stealthy, stylish, it looks aggressive, almost futuristic, but not in that cheesy 90s sci-fi way, so I absolutely love it. The Evos have a carbon fiber heat moldable shell wrapped in a polyurethane nano leather, so no animals were harmed during the production of these skates. Thermoplastic polyurethane mesh material for improved lateral support over the previous year. 270-degree replaceable toe protectors, which you can see I've clearly made good use of. A 2-way adjustable Velcro toe strap, a micro adjustable 45-degree ratchet buckle with plastic strap, and an upper strap with ratchet buckle as well. They come with standard non-wax lacing, a glass fiber reinforced plastic cuff, stiff but comfortable padding in both the boot and the tongue, as well as additional padding on the tongue to prevent lace bite. And almost all of these components are adjustable and or replaceable. Sizing. So in terms of sizing, I'm going to give you a couple of tips that really helped me and that hopefully will help you out as well, especially if you have wide feet. I'm also going to link the Powerslide's sizing instructions in the link below, as well as the Powerslide sizing chart specifically for these skates. So please make sure that you check that out carefully before you actually buy them. First tip is don't measure your insoles. So if you have a pair of running shoes or even an existing pair of skates, don't measure that insole to determine your skate size. Also, don't just buy the same size in this skate as your previous skates because every company is a little bit different. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna measure your foot. So if you take a pad of paper, you can just use a sheet, but I like to use a pad because it'll just move around a little bit less when it's up against the wall. And you're gonna wanna put that pad of paper up against a wall or a flat baseboard, stand on it with your heel just touching the wall or baseboard, and then draw a line at the end of your longest toe. And you're gonna wanna do that with both feet. Then you're gonna wanna measure the distance from the bottom of that pad to that line, and you're gonna wanna write down that number for both feet in millimeters. And then take that number from your longest foot and use the Powerslide sizing chart to determine your size. Also, make sure that you're wearing the socks that you're gonna be wearing when you're skating when you measure your feet as well. Now, again, I have wide feet. They're about 108 millimeters across. So I was a little bit worried about buying these skates and them just not fitting me properly. So my feet with my inline socks on are 267 millimeters in length. They're both about the same size, not everybody's are. So that puts me at a size 41 on Powerslide's chart. Now, again, I was worried about my feet maybe being a little bit too wide, and it was also kind of in between sizes, the higher end of 41. So I made the decision to size up and I went with the 42, and I'm very glad that I did. I'm certain that if I had gone with the 41, I would have had to send those skates back, and you can't send them back once you've heat molded them. So when I first got these skates, I tried them on. They fit perfectly in terms of length. However, the width was very tight, especially in the toe box. So I did have to heat mold them twice. The second time I heat molded them, I used a little bit of padding on some pressure points, and they were perfect when I was done. I haven't had a single blister on these skates, and I've skated them a lot. So I definitely recommend heat molding your skates. Follow the instructions that Powerslide gives in order to do that. And I'd also recommend, if you are between sizes, especially if you have wide feet, maybe consider sizing up instead of sizing down like I did. All right, so let's wrap up the pricing stuff. As of making this video, I could only find the 2021 boot only at one place, and it was localskates.com. Now, they're a European company. I think they provide free shipping, which is pretty cool though. But they're charging $630 for just the boot on these skates. That's the Canadian price, $520 US. So that's a little much. So what I did is I combined the price of the 2020 boot along with all the 2021 components that we talked about today. The 2020 boot is still available at some retailers for $400 US, $495 Canadian. All said and done, if you were to buy this complete setup with the 2020 boot, you're looking at $650 US or $791 Canadian to buy and build these skates yourself with last year's boot. And right now you can buy the skate complete for $680 US or $844 Canadian with this year's boot. So yes, it's a little bit more. However, you're getting this year's boot instead of last year's boot. I would say though, overall, the complete setup is probably a pretty good deal, especially if you're comparing that price at Loco Skates for the 2021 boot. However, $844 Canadian is still a lot of money, even in Canadian. So is it worth it? Should you buy these skates or should you go with something else? Or should you just build your own set from the ground up? Let's go talk about the pros and cons now, and we're gonna circle back to the wheels. Okay, so the wheels, pros. Fast wheels, good quality, fun to skate, really no major complaint about these wheels at all. I enjoy them, and I think the 88A 90s with the 3 points of contact is an awesome way to get around the city. It's not cumbersome at all, and it's much more stable than I expected. Cons. I don't want to hold this against them too much. I know that these aren't designed for extreme durability, but they are marketed as a fairly durable wheel. And this is what happened to one of mine. I don't know if you guys can see that angle there in the camera, but this is grinded right down to the hub. Okay, now that happened after I did a Powerslide stock tutorial, so I was really hard on these wheels, and they're already pretty worn out. So again, I mean, the only reason I did that is because I just got a new set and I thought, hey, I'll do this tutorial on my old wheels, and that way I'm not wasting all the polyurethane on the new ones. So I don't want to hold that against these too much, but I've never had that happen before. That was pretty crazy. Definitely not very safe at all. But again, I think that's more my fault than the wheel, but I'm not entirely sure. Bearings, pros of the bearings. They're fine bearings. Cons of the bearings, they're just fine bearings. Yes, there are better bearings out there. And again, for Powerslide's flagship skate, would I've expected a little bit better bearings? I guess so. But at the same time, I haven't had any issues with these bearings, so I got no complaints about them. And who cares if they're a little bit cheaper than some of the other ones out there, as long as they work good. So the bearings I don't really care about. The one kind of cool thing, again, that I really liked was that red rubber shield. I know it's a minor thing, but I like fine attention to detail like that. Those really cool aesthetic touches on skates are really important to me. Pros for the frames. So the 225 millimeter Powerslide Trinity Nexus frame. So these frames are awesome. They are extruded aluminum, so that's high quality aircraft aluminum. They're rigid, they're easily rocketed into multiple positions. The Trinity mount is amazing, and they have amazing power transfer. Cons? None. For me, I really like these. I haven't found anything about them that I dislike at all. Now, that being said, if you're coming from a longer frame, they might not feel as stable as you're used to, but I would still recommend giving them a chance because I was really pleased with them in terms of their stability. So, pros of the boot. Okay, so this boot, in my opinion, it looks amazing. It has quality materials over most of the boot. Heat molding for me was an absolute game changer. I don't think I'll ever buy another pair of skates that I can't heat mold, especially for the wide-footed like myself. It's a very stiff boot, tons of power transfer because of that stiffness in the carbon fiber boot, but it's also very comfortable as well, and that padding in there is super nice. Again, I haven't had a single blister on these skates, which is amazing. Cons, the straps on these boots, you'll find, at least I did, they feel a little bit cheap. In fact, this top one on my right skate, actually, I can't buckle it up any farther than about this position right here, which is kind of unfortunate. Fortunately, that's exactly where I want it, but if I try to tighten it any further than that, it just doesn't go. So I don't know if that's the buckle or if that is the strap, but just a little cheap, but they are also cheap to replace. If you do need to replace them, I'll probably get new ones for my skates. They're just a little bit hard to find, but they aren't very expensive. Quality control issues. So please bear in mind that this is for my skates. You may have bought these or you may buy them and not have any of these issues. I don't know if the issues that I had that I'm going to mention right now were at the factory level or at the retail level, but I kind of expected a little bit more in terms of the quality control for me to open up that box and have these skates be perfect for the amount of money that we pay for them. Maybe mine were adjusted for sizing or for demonstration or something like that at the retail outlet before they got shipped to me. I don't know. But there are a few things here that I'll mention, and maybe you can let me know in the comments. Did you have these problems with your skates too when you got them, or were they perfect when you pulled them out of the box like they should have been? The first thing was I had a defective wheel right out of the gate. Anytime that I applied pressure to this one specific wheel, it would make a pop. So I think that there is some type of issue with the adhesion of the polyurethane to the hub. I'm not an expert on wheels, but I did do some troubleshooting and I tried every different combination of spacer, axle, and bearing, and the sound followed the wheel. So I eventually had to do a warranty claim through Inline Warehouse. If you live in Canada or outside of the US, be careful with Inline Warehouse because they do have a policy on their website, which I didn't even think to look at because I've never heard of this before, where apparently if they ship outside of the States, you're not gonna have a warranty on your skates. So anyway, I talked to a few people at IW, I got Powerslide involved, and Powerslide was amazing to deal with. They completely had my back, and I ended up getting warranty replacements on my wheels, although it did take a little bit longer than I think it should have, but that had nothing to do with Powerslide. If you live in Canada, Pro Skaters Place might be the way to go if you're buying these skates. However, I had to go to IW because I couldn't get them at Pro Skaters Place. They just weren't available. So yeah, there's a defective wheel. I mean, that's no big deal. I understand that type of thing can happen. These are mass-produced wheels and you're gonna have some level of defectiveness. So it didn't bother me that much, and I was happy that they sent me a new set, and I got a whole new set of bearings, which was awesome. And the other thing, all of the screws that are on this skate that hold the straps onto it, were all loose when I got it. Again, no big deal. I just tightened them and we're good to go. But again, that's just one of those fine details that I thought, hey, for the money, screws should be tight, I think. And finally, and this one wasn't a big deal either, but again, it's just one of those small imperfections. The frames weren't centered when I took them out of the box. Now, I would have had to recenter mine anyway because I had some supination in my feet and I had to adjust my frame. I eventually had to use Powerslide's stride control inserts, which I made another video about, which you can check out on my channel if you want. And that completely fixed my supination. So I would have had to make some frame adjustments anyway. However, when the skates come out of the box brand new from the factory, I would have just expected them to be perfectly centered on the boot, and they were just off a bit, that's all. And but before I go on, that's another thing to keep in mind as well. If you do have pronation or supination with these, the Powerslide stride control inserts are super cheap and they'll help you out. So I definitely recommend getting some of those, and it'll just make your foot perfectly lined up if you're leaning to the inside or the outside. Now, the number one surprise that I had out of the box with these skates is how they skated. I was super happy and super impressed with them. I know it sounds like I just dunked on them for a bit there, but in the grand scheme of things, everything that I just mentioned as a con is really, to me, kind of minor. Just some minor adjustments to the frame, tightening up the screws, okay, no big deal. But these things skate incredible. The carbon fiber boot is super responsive. You get tons of power transfer between that and the Trinity mount system, which keeps you nice and low. They look awesome, and I was really impressed with not only the agility, but also the stability with that nice, short 3x90 Nexus frame. These are by far the best skates I've ever owned. I know they're a big investment, at least they were for me, and I know it's important that when you spend this kind of money, you want all the information that you can get about where your money is going, and you don't want any surprises out of the box. So I just wanted to make sure you knew everything that I knew about them before you buy them, and hopefully that helps. But do I think they're worth the money? Again, these were $844 Canadian. That's a lot of money, and yeah, I do think that they're worth it. I do think that they're a quality product, and I think Powerslide's a great company. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, but if you're in the market for a high-end skate and you're willing to part with that kind of money, is this a good option? I think it is, yeah. I was looking at the Adapt GTOs too, because again, I do mostly city skating. I'm not a freestyle skater, but I kind of like the idea of being able to dabble in that. So I like the frame modularity with these, the rockerability of them. So in my view, these offer access to more disciplines than a really high quality skate like the GTO. And also they are less expensive than Adapts as well, for what it's worth. All right, guys, thanks for checking out the video. There you have it. That's my take and my review on the 2021 Powerslide HC Evo Pro. I know I left some stuff out for time. However, if you guys have any questions about the skates, leave them in the comments down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Also, if you already own a pair of these, or if you get one, I'd love you to come back and leave a comment and let me know what you think of them. Do you agree with me on them? Do you disagree? Are there some things that you hope Powerslide will change when they do their next iteration of the Evos, or do you think they're perfect? Now, if you want to check out that video that I made about how to rotate the wheels on these skates, install stride control, and an instructional video on how to rocker them, go ahead and click this video right over here. And if you want to check out the video, the Powerslide tutorial that I made when I ruined my wheel, check out that video down there. And if you want to subscribe to my channel or just take a look to see what else I have to offer on there, click that one right up there. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, my name's Ian. I am the Northern Skatesman, and I'll see you guys next time.